good. A, you better be good. B, they better be good. And C, you should empower them if they're good. And once you empower them, pretty much they do the stuff and they tell you, listen, just don't get in my way.
I was talking to Amrish a little while ago because he was a student at Mayo when I was teaching there. And I asked him how candid he could be with you. And he said, oh, I'm very blunt with Sanjeev, but after 10 p.m.
No,
and over a beer. Is that right?
Well, no, beers open much before 10 p.m. Okay. But I tell you, I think key is if you empower people, and good people will want to speak their minds. So as the head of a company, head of an organization, you've got to be willing to sort of tolerate dissent, encourage a divergent point of view, listen a lot, even though you may be clear in your head that this is the right course of action and that is wrong. But nevertheless, the truth is you could be wrong and the other person could be right, and what you think is right may not be so. So I think it's about letting go of it. As the organization grows, you've got to learn to let go.
Biggs, in the latest issue of Time that I was reading yesterday, I find India's top CEOs have been picked up or pinched by companies overseas. Thus, we have Sanjay Khosla at Kraft, Lakshmi Mittal at ArcelorMittal, Indra Nui at Pepsi, Nitin Noria at Harvard, Ajit Jain at Berkshire, Nikesh Arora at Google, Sanjay Jha at Motorola, Deepak Jain at INSEAD, Vikram Pandit at Citigroup, a couple of Banga brothers at MasterCard and Unilever. How come no one pinched you?
Maybe I wasn't good enough, but
you declined.
Well, no, I'll tell you, I don't think I would ever have been a professional manager who would be willing to rise up the ranks of a large corporation. That wasn't me. I wanted to start something from scratch, bootstrap it, create it, and then try and grow it big.
Okay, now, Biggs, I'll ask you about the MBA program and about management education. Tell me, I'm sure St. Stephen's did some fantastic things to you. What did Ahmedabad destroy that St. Stephen's created?
No, I think both were very different experiences. I went to those institutions at different points in my life. I think St. Stephen's for me was about growing up, right? Perhaps coming of age, and making lifelong friends, and going to a place where you believed you belonged, right? And it was at a time when I was 18. So, when you go at 18, you graduate at 21. You're at a very, very fairly impressionable age. Yeah. I then worked for 3 years and then went to IIM Ahmedabad. And therefore I was much older and I had 3 years of organizational experience. So over there, of course, I did make lifelong friendships. I do believe I belong there. But perhaps there was a little less emotion. But perhaps there was a lot more practical, immediately useful stuff in terms of working as a manager or as an entrepreneur or as leading a team. St. Stephen's was more softer skills.
Since you was more?
Soft skills.
Okay. Were there any evil habits at St. Stephen's that you picked up that you had to discard at Ahmedabad?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. Now tell me, this is a question that is often asked by young people, of others who've been to business school. How critical is a business school education in terms of someone doing well as an entrepreneur or in business or in independent ventures? Is it that a guy who didn't go to Ahmedabad or ISB or Wharton or Kellogg's or wherever has a reduced chance of success? Is that how it is?
Okay, so here's this. I think an MBA from a good place is really good. I think an MBA from a not so good place is a waste of time. Okay? So I think whatever you do, it's important that you do a quality job of it. If you go to the 300th ranked business school or the 200th ranked business school, perhaps it won't be so good. And the reason is, what has happened in India is that the MBA has become like the BA was 30, 40 years ago, which is it's become an essential tag to have, never mind what's behind it. And that's not so good. So, today you have a situation where you have 2,000 or 3,000 business schools in the country, the vast majority of which are providing education of indifferent quality. It's something which people are attracted to because of the three letters MBA. But I think increasingly what's happening is people are understanding that, look, if I don't go to a quality place, it's better to start working straight away, because that will teach me a lot more. And this year, for example, the management entrance exams have had a drastic reduction in people taking them, simply because people have seen through it. If you spend 5 or 6 or 7 lakhs to do an MBA that will ultimately give you a 2 lakh rupee salary or 3 lakh rupee salary, that's not so good.
Vix, there was a trend maybe when you went to Ahmedabad, or Deep Kalra went to Ahmedabad, that upon graduation, you went through your placement interviews on campus and joined a company. There has been a recent trend over the last few years of people graduating, not accepting jobs at placement, but starting ventures on their own. How risky is that?
So listen, it is risky, okay? But the point is that if you're an MBA from a good business school, you can always find a job even after 3 or 4 years of trying and failing. And the point also is that if you don't try, you'll never succeed. So it's a good idea to try. And while it is true that people are chucking up placement and starting companies straight out of campus, the number is not so large that that has become sort of the most popular thing to do. But what has happened in India in the last 20 years is that doing a startup has become a sort of a socially respectable thing to do. And you will find many in many families which earlier used to say, listen, take a safe job, they're willing to look at their kids doing a startup for a few years, and if it does well, excellent. If it doesn't, get back to a job. I think that has changed in India, and I think that's a very positive thing.
I'm just going to hand these to you. Please respond.
How has the degree from IIM ever helped you, or has it given you some advantages over your peers? Okay, so a good MBA, a good management education, what it does do, it will not transform you. It will simply perhaps equip you with some knowledge, some skills, which may perhaps, when you go out into the workplace, help you do your job slightly better, right? And it's not as if I can say, okay, in these 3 specific ways, these 3 specific things the MBA has helped me. It's an overall thing about how you approach it, a decision, how you approach an unstructured situation, how you approach unstructured information, how you take decisions, how you get sensitive to certain aspects of management which perhaps you were not sensitive about, how you learn to analyze a problem, those sort of things. It is also true that MBA from a good institution establishes the credentials. It opens certain doors. It gives you a certain brand equity. It gives you a certain network of peers in organizations where you're trying to sell things or you're trying to raise money from, and that helps. But so it helps in many ways. But I would like to distinguish between an MBA from a good MBA, a good management education, or a not so good one. Recently, I read an article in the Economic Times about how much land the IIMs have and how few MBAs they're producing, when the London Business School is producing many more MBAs from just 5 acres of space. Okay, so this is an allegation that's been commonly leveled at the IIMs, right? But you've got to understand a few things. Up until now, the IIMs have operated in a model where the MBA is subsidized, or the education is subsidized. So therefore, it might cost 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs to produce an MBA, but the fees charged were much, much lower, where you were charging 30 or 40,000 rupees, which meant that the more students you took, the more funding you needed. Whereas the London Business School and business schools in the US, they charge 70 lakhs, 80 lakhs, 1 crore rupees for the MBA program. And there, the more students they recruit, the more students who join, the more money they make, or the more solvent the institution is. And therefore, there's an inbuilt incentive in those institutions to expand the MBA program, rather than the Indian institutions, which traditionally had said, we'll expand the executive education, which is where we make money, we'll expand the consulting, which is where we make money, and we will cap the MBA program to where it is. And in the past, in the recent past, whenever the IIMs have tried to increase the fees, generally there's been bad press, generally politicians have complained, about why are they doing this. Okay, now if you get stuck in a bad model where the more you expand, the more money you lose, you are not going to be able to expand. So yes, the IIMs have got land, but unless they're incentivized to expand the program, which means that they should be able to charge fees that are commensurate to the cost and perhaps even a little surplus, they would not be incentivized to expand. So let me give you a little example. The average salary in my batch, 89, when I passed out of IIM Ahmedabad was 3,800 rupees a month, right? And it cost us about 40,000 rupees to do the MBA. So in roughly 1 year's time, you were getting the money back on a pre-tax basis, right? If I go back to 1980, when my brother graduated from Ahmedabad, he got, the average salary there was about 1,500 rupees a month, and the MBA cost about 20,000 rupees. Again, in about 12 to 14 months, you were getting your money back. Today, at the average salary at IIM Ahmedabad is in excess of 14 lakh rupees a year. Maybe, and if you exclude the international office, just the Indian office, if you take the international office, it's probably 20 to 25 lakhs a year. And the fees, with great difficulty, the IIMs have raised them to 8 to 10 lakhs. So actually, you're getting your money back in about 4 months' time. Okay, you can actually afford to raise the fees and still have the same ROI on the MBA. What you need is people who do not have money should get bank loans, okay, so that they can pay it back later. And at those three levels, the IIMs will really expand a lot because they will be incentivized to expand. The IIMs this year have introduced a new degree. Do you think that IIM should take such a course? My clear answer is yes. IIM Indore is trying to introduce a 5-year program. We have seen what a shortage there is of good undergrad college seats in this country. We have seen where the cutoffs have gone to Delhi University, how it's getting harder and harder to get into a good college, how the college system in India is not doing so well, how it's broken. And I do think any capacity expansion in an institution of quality at the undergrad level is a good idea. Now having said that, you will always find that the people who lose power in such a situation, such as the AICTE, will object, right? But I don't think IIM Indore should be stopped from doing that course. I think they should continue. The second aspect of this is, look, in the IIMs today, in the postgraduate program, in the MBA program, there are upwards of 90% engineers. Now, in the US, in business schools, not more than 20% of the students are engineers. And the difference is that over there, people study engineering to work as engineers, to do the PhD in engineering, to do research in engineering. They do not view the engineering degree as a stepping stone to an MBA. Because the engineering actually is a professional qualification. It's a bit like a doctor saying, now I'll do an MBA. And this to me is clearly misallocated resources. You have created these massive capacities in engineering colleges to produce engineers who will not work as engineers. Right? So therefore, an institution like IIM Indore, which says, listen guys, if you want to do an MBA, join straight from school, don't go through engineering. I think it's a good idea. I think every IIM should start this. I think this program should be expanded. And I think the government should encourage this. So many MBA students today, so how do you judge quality? So the problem is, like I said earlier, about 10 or 15 years ago, the media began to report the fabulous salaries that MBAs and the IIMs get. And there would be magazine articles and newspaper articles, and the IIMs too would boast about what salaries the students were getting. Now this led people to believe that, look, if I do an MBA, I will get the same salaries. But that's not true. Only MBAs from the best business schools will get those salaries, because there are only so many of those kind of jobs going. And so a lot of these smaller institutes sprung up to sort of take advantage of this demand, and they were able to charge from gullible students and their families extremely high fees to deliver business education of fairly indifferent quality. But now, like I said, the bubble seems to be bursting, and a lot of business schools are running into trouble where they do not have enough applications. what kind of attitude is needed to get to premium business schools, especially how to go about interviews. Okay, the first thing is you've got to clear the entrance exam. Okay, now it's a tough entrance exam, which basically means you've got to be a good student. So how many of us here are in school? Okay, how many are in college? Very large number. So first thing, you've got to study really hard. Okay, there is no escaping that. Okay, you've got to study hard and clear that exam. Apart from which, you've got to do well in your college to prove to the interview panel that, look, you are committed to academics, because the workload in the best business schools is high and it is rigorous. And if people do not believe that you're going to be able to cope, right, with the academic workload inside, your chances reduce of qualifying. But if you do not have that kind of academic record right now, and it's already too late to sort of go back and do it again, it's a good idea to work for 2 or 3 years, get some very good experience, and then try, because they might look at you differently with 3 or 4 years work experience. Yeah. That's the advice I give. All right, questions. How is being an entrepreneur different from old times in today's times? So listen, every generation says to the next generation, listen, you guys have it easy. In my time, it was much harder. Haven't your parents told you that? Okay. So my instinct is the same thing, that look, when I became an entrepreneur 20 years ago, it was a lot harder. But the truth is, it's hard being an entrepreneur anytime. Because the money is never enough. You are frequently going without salary, you're tightening your belt, a lot of personal sacrifice. And are there any entrepreneurs here who started out in the last 5 years? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's not easy. Every entrepreneur goes through a fair sort of period of financial struggle before he gets it right. I can think only 1 or 2 people who didn't do that, okay, who succeeded immediately, but most people go through that. And as an entrepreneur, that is something you've got to be prepared for. The problem, however, is that, look, people write only about the success stories, right? Nobody writes about the failures. Okay. But the truth is that for every one success story, there are probably 70 or 80 or 100 guys who are struggling. Yeah? And I would encourage everybody to look at entrepreneurship as an option, because it's psychologically very, very rewarding. But please go in with a very good reality check that, look, you will have to struggle. It's romantic only in hindsight when people write about the success stories. Okay, if someone doesn't get admission to top colleges, what should they do? I would say get some very good work experience. Yeah, because if you cannot, if you've not got great marks the morning, because that's when you got a stable connection. So fundamentally, it's about lack of capital, which led to lack of infrastructure, which led to lack of salaries, so which led to lack of senior talent. I would say, at the same time, bootstrapping is something which I would recommend as a good schooling if you want to be an entrepreneur. Largely because if we had not bootstrapped for the first 3 years before we raised venture capital, we perhaps would not have understood how to make money on the internet. And it's because for the first 3 years that we didn't have money, we had to break even to survive, that we learned to make money. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been just another plain.com. Mr. Peter Thiel started an entrepreneurship program in the US when 20 students are selected after school and made to skip college, and each of them is funded with $1 million approximately. And should not there be such a program in India? Okay, so the context of this is that Peter Thiel has got a hypothesis that colleges are useless. College education is useless, it makes no difference. I would be a little wary of going into something like that in India. I'm not sure that's a valid hypothesis. But let's see what happens. The experiment has just begun, so we don't know yet. So we are pass outs from Delhi College of Engineering. We left a job at Deloitte and Touche and KPMG and working on a startup called 21 Fools. There's you guys there in the second row. Okay. We are just two people. How do we manage time with such a small team, and how to choose a good team? Okay. The first question is, how do we manage time with such a small team? So when you don't have enough resources, the natural instinct is to just focus on the stuff that's most important and leave out the other stuff. And I think that's a good thing, because it forces you to prioritize, and which is what Naukri.com was in the beginning. When you start making money is when you start doing a lot of foolish things, because now you have money. Yeah. And how do you choose a good team? I think at the first stage of a company, early stage, you've got to be hiring believers, people who believe in your idea, in your concept, most of all who believe in you, right? And because you can't pay them too much money, so they have to work out of love, right? And if they love the idea and they really like you, they will be willing to take a hit in the salary, and they will be willing to work long hours and stretch and work 24/7 and so on and so forth. So the first is believers. The second is the first team will be people you know. And it'll be people you know, either friends or friends of friends, people you work with, people you studied with, juniors from college, people you went to school with, people in your neighborhood, your cousin, whoever. Because those are people who will believe enough in you to say, I'll come and work with you. So I would say look in your own network first. The other is, interns from colleges and schools in the vacations is a good idea, because you can get away without paying them anything. Yeah, because they'll be doing it just for biodata value and trying to get some education and learning. After BTech in computer science engineering, what should I do? The course which I want to do, IT security, it doesn't have a valid degree course in India, or should I do an MBA? So what happens is in India, whether it's after school or after college or after an MBA or any other postgraduate degree, basically our impulse is in one or two areas. Number one, I must go for the best label. Number two, I must go for the best salary. Number three, I must go for the most security, in terms of financial security or safety. And nowhere is it asked, what is it that I love to do? What is my passion? Right? And my point is that today in India, there are so many options open that if you first figure out what you'd love to do, right, and then go out and do that, chances are you'll become very good at it because you love it. And if you become very good at anything in India, you will be a success financially and otherwise, and you'll also be happy. So the question I would say you ask yourself is, what is it I love to do? Rather than where are the best prospects, which is the best label. An MBA is a nice title to have. I would recommend you don't chase titles and degrees, you just chase, what is it you love to do. As you have been through different phases during your course of journey towards success, what is that one thing you always suggest to a young entrepreneur to keep in mind? I think the best kept secret or some of the best kept secrets, 2-3 of them would be, I think the first one is persistence. So entrepreneurs are not geniuses, at least I'm not. It's just that I kept at it for 10 years and I didn't go back to a job, and sooner or later we succeeded. But it took 10 years, right? So it's about being persistent, about keeping at it, about not giving up. I think that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is you should be trying to solve an unsolved problem. If the problem is already solved by somebody else, it's not such a, your chances of success, reduce a lot. So I think the best kept secret of most market leaders today is that they started out very early in the game. They were not late entrants. So two things. One is that persistence, and second is, are you solving an unsolved problem?